This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Tuesday, September the 13th, 2022. We're so glad you could join us. Coming up in today's show, I will be visiting with former Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network broadcaster and founder Ken Root, find out what he's been up to, and we caught up with him at the Farm Progress Show. We'll also take a look at your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're at the end of another trading day here on this Tuesday, and we're talking to Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, it's been an interesting last 2 days. What did we see coming at the close today?
You're right. Interesting is exactly right, Dustin. I mean, we saw the grain markets, have a very strong day yesterday. Off of the USDA supply demand report today, we found some resistance yesterday, and let's just start with the corn market. We went up to the $7 level today. $6.9825 was the high. We backed off about a nickel at the close here today. Settled in a very tight range. I would say a dime range up here at $7 level after the news and the focus that the grain markets are getting right now. A dime was a relatively quiet trade. Bean market, on the other hand, we went up, touched the 15.0875. That number is pretty significant. If you go back, a couple of months ago, we saw that 15.08 number as well, and we got a double top there, and we have resistance right there at that level. So technically, we backed off a little bit. We went down to 15.77, closed towards the lows, down a dime on the day, down 11 cents on the day. I wouldn't say that's any type of chart destruction, but you do have some resistance there from the producer, from the producer side of it. A good opportunity here to take a look at some of our risk management without trying to get too in depth on what's could be to come and what kind of weights are on this market. From a fundamental perspective, your corn, your soybeans are very bullish. But we do have other things that are out there in the macroeconomic side of things that are just keeping some weight on this thing. And as a producer, is something that you should be aware of and not try to get too bulled up here at this level. Wheat market pretty quiet this morning. We've been in a very tight range here, and I think we end up closing this thing probably 2 to 3 cents across the board in Chicago higher, and the Kansas City was a nickel higher on the day.
So, Jacob, as we talk about this, we saw that rise and then fall today, both corn and soybeans. Now, when we talk a lot of the terminology and how people can take advantage of this, sometimes it goes past us at Mach 3 and we don't always understand it. But kind of give us an example of how a farmer could have taken advantage of like that high of 15.08 and protect themselves from the drop back here later on in the day.
Well, that's kind of what we spend most of our day doing, is talking to producers about how can we put a strategy in place that uses risk management, true risk management, where we want to protect the downside of what they have not sold yet, but leave the top side open. And we use a lot of put strategies here. We can couple those together with buying a put and then selling a call. So where you're doing what we would call like a min max at the elevator, you can structure those type of strategies up. You can be aggressive. And more so, sometimes it's just as simple as, hey, call the elevator and put an order in around these levels and finding some levels to structure that. At that point, you have zero downside risk on those bushels after you sell them. How do you stay in the marketplace? Well, then we might look at some type of call spread to help you out into the spring if we get that spring rally that we're looking at. So when they say there's a million different ways to skin the cat, that's truth. But the foremost way that we like to do that is, where is your risk at? If you don't have a lot sold right now, there's some opportunities. We made a big move up here in the last 2 days. Changing the yield number to 50.5 yesterday gave us about 70 cents in the bean. That's a price that we did not think we would have available to us. Now is a very good time to take advantage and lay some risk off on the board by using some of these tools that we have available to us, and mostly in the put stride.
And that's definitely something producers got to be thinking about. I mean, obviously, we know earlier this year, even late last year, folks were already booking percentages of this crop to make sure they weren't overstretched one way or the other. But now, as they start to bring that crop in, they're going to want to take advantage of those unsold bushels as well, right?
Absolutely. You left some. You probably left some that were unpriced. At what point do you get paid? What that you grow the crop not to pet it, not to look at it every day, but you grow it to sell it. And there's a point where you got to get paid. Now, I'm not saying that you have to rush out here and be overly aggressive and get 100% sold up here at these levels. We don't know what's out in the field. That 50.5, I don't know. That could be short. I don't think it is. But inevitably, you need to put yourself in a position where you can gain if the market continues to go higher. But to look at this and say, hey, I'm not going to do anything, but we're going to just buy calls, or we're just going to re-own with futures, or we're not going to sell anything because this market is going to continue to go higher. We might have a lower yield and a lower price. I mean, that's very possible with the weight of the macroeconomic factors on top of this market. We're not guaranteed that this market goes higher.
It's kind of like you guys told us during Farm Progress Show, if we do nothing, we're going to get nothing.
Well, that's you don't put your grain in the storage bin as a wishing well, because you want to get it out and look at it. It's got to be sold. You've got to do something. You got to take advantage of opportunities that are out there. And right now, I think that we have some very good opportunities that could get better. And so put yourself in that position where you can kind of fence the market in.
All right, so turning to the livestock side of things, Jacob, what did we see there today?
Your cattle are obviously taking a pretty good hit with the move up in the corn and the grains over the last couple of days. Your live cattle cash market's been pretty quiet. Box beef has been relatively steady. But you're seeing that stock market go off. Last time I looked, it was 900 points lower. Anytime we correlate the cattle market with the stock market a lot. When there's pressure in the economy, when that type of focus goes, usually you can see the cattle market fall off, and that's what we did. It's relatively, technically traded. I mean, we got some support that we bounced off of here today. We've seen these 151 highs several different times in the December cattle, but just had some pressure coming from the stock market. And I keep talking about macroeconomics, and what we saw today was the CPI come in 2 points higher than what we expected. So inflation is still the key. We look at like food inflation, you're 11.4. So everything is still in that room. That just signals to us that we're going to have to see some type of interest rate hike to push this, use deflationary measures to stop the inflation. And that's what the market's fearful of. Now, on the other side of things, the cheaper supplementary product in protein is the hogs, and the hog market. When the cattle are failing right now, the hogs are taking advantage of this. And we're up about $3.80 in the October. December up about $3 as well on the day. So a strong day in the hog market.
All right, Jacob. Well, if folks got any questions or want to play some of those strategies in their markets, how do they get in touch with agmarket.net?
Just simply look us up on agmarket.net. We want you to understand what we talk about, what we say. So we set you up with a 30-day free trial from there. If you have questions on that, simply you can give us a call here at 608-384-5438. And just look us up there. Look us up on social. Have a good day.
All right, Jacob, thanks so much for the insight, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me, Dustin.
And that again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Let's run down those closing numbers. That comes to us courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. December corn was 3 1/4 lower at 692 3/4. March down 2 1/4 at 697 1/4. November beans down 9 1/2 at 1478 3/4. January beans down 8 1/4 at 1484 even. Soy meal down $10.90 at 428.90. Soy oil up 59 cents at 68.93. Chicago wheat up 1 3/4 at 860 1/2. Minneapolis wheat up 4 3/4 at 931 1/4. Kansas wheat up 6 3/4 at 933 3/4. December oats down 8 at 402 even. December live cattle down 90 cents at 150.45. September feeders down 207 at 179.45. Lean hogs up 387 at 95.75. Pork cutouts up 287 at 104.80. Class 3 milk is a penny higher at 19.90. And that's been our Ag Market Recap. We're going to take a short break here and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with retired IARN broadcaster Ken Root. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we had the Farm Progress Show just a few short weeks ago, and I actually caught up with Ken Root. He is the founder, or one of the founders, I should say, and one of the first broadcasters here at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. He has since retired. We caught up with him, found out what's been going on in his life, and some of the things that he remembers from Farm Progress shows of the past. The people I've been talking to say they've been definitely getting more serious customers for their products.
I think that is the argument that is always presented, because that's clearly who you want, the people who are going to be impressed here by something and then go home and be able to buy it. I think that's the key. But watch this show to see whether they move it to include a weekend day, because that'll bring your numbers up. And sometimes just numbers themselves are not bad. And there's a lot of people who are fairly serious farmers who have a 5-day-a-week job. So if you included a Saturday into this show, then you're going to see that they're going to need to get numbers in here. And also take a few drone shots from the sky and see how many spaces are empty. There's not very many empty yet. But I do think it's just a trend. I'm not picking on anybody. It's just a trend that you have fewer and fewer people in agriculture that are full-time at it. And the large farms are few, but getting larger all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I know how you mentioned the weekend. You know, coming from Minnesota, we had Minnesota Farm Fest, and the one thing they always said, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because they didn't want the city people there getting all the free stuff. But obviously, the times have changed since then.
Yeah, and you know, you go to a state fair, you don't really get overrun by farm people going through the ag exhibits on the weekend, I don't think. You'll get some people that are pretty serious about it. And they got money too. And in many cases, you know, especially in bad times, they've got a salary that comes in every month. They can pay the bill.
Yeah, exactly right. But so now you've been coming to the show for quite a long time, and it used to be held at farms all over the place in the Midwest and the Corn Belt. I mean, tell us a little bit how this has changed.
Well, that initial concept of actually identifying a farm about 3 years before it actually was used meant that they had to do a lot of setup and a lot of prep. And it all came down to, can they get the perfect conditions for 3 days and on county roads bring people into the farm at a time when there were way more farmers than there are today. So it was a congested mess. And then, of course, we went through these years that you had a big thunderstorm that hit. And that just literally took out the show. So the change was obvious that it was going to happen if they could make it happen. And after a big blowout in Illinois back around 2008 or so, I think they started talking seriously. And ADM and Decatur just said, okay, we're going to give you a permanent site, a biennial permanent site. And they got a good one over there. And then here in Iowa, it took a lot more work, but Boone County, close to Iowa State and other things, and the sponsors said they'd be here as well. They got it to be like it is today. So it's a beautiful site. You know, it's got 7 miles of paved roads. You've got indoor bathrooms that are permanent, and you've got a very comfortable site, along with the fact that people put up air-conditioned tents. So it really can't be much better than it is now, unless it was all on a major convention grounds, and I don't think anybody wants that.
No, not at all. And then what's really interesting also is they put in a nice drainage system too. Yeah. We found out in 2018 we got a gully washer here, or a toad strangler, or whatever you want to call it. You know, we got a good rain. The grounds were fine when they were canceling the show, but it was out in the parking lot where people needed to get out. That's where it got to be a little bit of a mess.
Yeah. The other limiting factor is a windstorm, because these tents look good, but they can't handle that much wind. But the crop conditions, you know, every year is a variable. They have all the crops around us, just like they used to, on how mature they are and how much work can be done. And I'm not sure this year, you know, how much is actually going to be accomplished because of how late the season is here in Iowa.
Yeah, and we had the heavy rain over the weekend. That slowed things down a little bit. And like I said, there was also late planting too. It was just a mess of a year this year.
It's not been a good year so far for things, but I think that's one of the things we all like. You know, there are farmers here from all over the country, around the world, and they all talk to each other. And this morning I was in the hotel, and the farmers were talking to each other. Well, how's the weather down in your part of the country? How's your crops doing? Well, we're already cutting corn. You're what? Yeah, we're already harvesting corn in our part of the country. And these guys are looking at them like, I got another month to go. and it's going to be a fall season, obviously, but it's a different part of the world, and you interact with each other, and I think that's one of the strengths of this industry, is that people aren't competitive with each other. They're really brothers, and they experience that when they come to this show.
It's almost the same way we are in the ag journalism business. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that we are competing with. We're telling a lot of times the same story, but yet these are the same people with, hey, I saw you didn't make it. Here's the audio from it if you want to do your own story on. It is a brotherhood that you don't get in other areas of journalism.
Yeah, and of course you've got these new hotshot young guys, Riley and Mark, and they're pretty much taking over, so it won't be long until you'll be me.
There'll be some days ahead, but Ken, I appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully those days are still a little numbered yet, but so it was great having you on here. Before we let you go, obviously you helped to start the network. Talk a little bit about its time since its inception.
Well, it was because WHO Radio fired me that I didn't want to leave Iowa, and I said I'd like to work here if I could, so I moved over to the Agribusiness Association of Iowa and found friends there, and everything was fine. But then Russ Parker and I kept talking about maybe we could start a radio network in the state, which had not really been something that people had considered in the past because of the dominance of a few radio stations. And the timing was right, because as we talk in our industry today, you had a lot of people who were trying to get out while some of us were trying to get in. And I think timing is everything, and that's really what happened. It was not me. Russ did more than I did. He lined up a lot of radio stations that would carry us. And then we brought in people like you and Ben Nully and David Geiger and other people. And now you've brought in more people, and I love it. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. And, you just have to work at serving that audience. If you serve the audience will serve you.
All right. Well, Ken, I thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for taking time, because I know you're busy catching up with a lot of people in there. And tell us about your podcast.
Oh, I tell you, it's a tough day for me. I've been talking ever since I got here and walking around quite a bit. I have a fun podcast. I'll give it that. It's called Better Than Nothing, which is my first wife's description of me. And I run a podcast that's a half hour every week, posted as Better Than Nothing, Nuthin, Ken Root. So you got to check it out. There's no telling what will be on. But this week, I'm just going through the Farm Progress Show like I used to and talking to every weird person I can find along the way and strange product, and I'm putting them all together, and in 30 minutes, you can have the full effect.
It's funny. We're kind of doing the same thing, aren't we? Well, Ken,
Through the heart.
You put it on the tee, I'll take the swing. Well, Ken, I thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today. I appreciate it.
Sure. Waste this wherever you can.
Okay, will do. That again was former IARN broadcaster Ken Root. Now, let's run down that weather outlook. Well, a bright, sunshiny day again greeting us here in Des Moines. Of course, sunshine being prevalent across most of the state, and that looks like that is going to continue. Now, there might be a few chances here and there of a scattered shower, but not much, and those temps are going to continue to warm up. We may be knocking on the door of 90. How soon? Well, let's find out from the National Weather Service as they point out what's going on for the next 24 hours. Well, as we said, those temperatures keep rising here throughout the week. We're starting with mostly sunny skies. Temperatures from the mid-70s to the mid-80s. Tonight, clear skies across the state. We're going to see temperatures basically ranging in the 50s. And tomorrow, mostly sunny, and we're going to warm up a little more. Highs will be in the upper 70s to almost 90 degrees. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map, we see Cherokee will be sunny in 86. Shenandoah and Des Moines both checking in with sunny skies in 89 tomorrow. Waterloo will be sunny in 83. Albia sunny and 88. And Clinton will be the cool spot of the state tomorrow, coming in with sunny skies and 79 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's our Ag Weather Outlook. And just like that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and also on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video. You can also get our free twice daily market podcast through Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.